Mellow greetings, folks and friendly fiends. Welcome to my cozy little corner in the common. In today's episode of Stitching Sci-Fi, I'm going to share with you my top 3 favorite story elements for the 1990s sci-fi classic, Demolition Man. While I prattle on, I'm also going to stitch a design inspired by Demolition Man's infamous 3 seashells. I may be embroidering them, but please don't ask me how to use them.
Sir, I formally convey my presence.
How you doing?
We are not used to physical contact greetings.
Germs.
Look, I don't know if you guys know it, but you're out of toilet paper.
Did you say toilet paper?
Oh, they used handfuls of wadded paper back in the 20s.
I'm happy that you're happy, but the place where you're supposed to have the toilet paper, you got this little shelf with 3 seashells on it.
He doesn't know how to use the 3 seashells. I can see how that could be
I
confusing.
don't believe it. Is that you, Spartan?
No. Zach? Zach Lamb? What happened to you?
I got older.
My God. I remember when you were a snot-nosed rookie pilot.
They finally grounded me.
Shit. You're a damn good flyer.
You are fined 2 credits for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
I'll be right back.
They seem to be friends, yet he speaks to him in the most profane manner.
Well, if you had read my study, you would know that this is how insecure heterosexual males used to bond.
I knew that.
Thanks a lot, you shit brain.
You are fined. You are fined 5 credits for repeated violations of the verbal morality statute.
So much for the seashells.
Before we begin, I'm going to take a moment to briefly review the rules and objectives of this little YouTube series. Rule number 1 of Stitching Sci-Fi. Each episode will cover only 3 story elements I love about a property. That's it. No bitching, no gossip, no hate, just love. Rule number 2. Practice imperfection. Sometimes it's good enough just to try something new. It's okay if the stitching turns out a little janky, or not as good as I had hoped. The point is to make an effort, be gentle with myself, and to practice a little imperfection. Rule number 3. Have fun. That's it. Just have fun. Okay. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Demolition Man, my first question is, how? It's like streaming everywhere. It's 30 years old. You had to have seen it by now. This gem of a sci-fi action film stars Sylvester Stallone, Sandra Bullock, Wesley Snipes, Benjamin Bratt, and Dennis Leary. When it was released by Warner Brothers Studios in 1993, it made $153 million worldwide, which was a moderate success and was greeted with mixed critical acclaim. But it has since gone on to be a bit of a sci-fi classic. The movie is about a police officer with a reputation for demolishing everything around him in his pursuit of a suspect. When he fails to rescue a group of hostages from a criminal mastermind and they all perish, both the cop and the crime lord are sentenced to be cryogenically frozen. Nearly 40 years later, when the crime lord wakes up and breaks out of the cryo prison, he finds a new idyllic world, free from crime and ripe for the taking. And the only person capable of apprehending him is the Demolition Man. Now, I could ramble for hours about the delightfully cheesiness of this movie, but in order to keep the video to a manageable length, I get only 3 story elements to gush about, so let's get to it. The first, and probably the most important of my top 3 favorite story elements, is setting. There are so many little details of this movie that are spectacularly satirical. But let's start at the beginning. After the big one of 2010, which was a massive earthquake in Southern California that destroyed Santa Barbara, Los Angeles, and San Diego, a new San Angeles metro was built into a pristine utopian society miraculously in a single year. Fiction, you gotta love it. In this happy little halcyon, anything that is bad for you was outlawed, including spicy food, contact sports, meat, chocolate, foul language, and even physical intimacy. It's like a futuristic little Disneyland without the rides where crime, litter, and even toilet paper is non-existent. Now, as much as you might want to scoff at the unlikelihood of a sinless utopia blossoming among the ashes of Los Angeles, the movie does a great job of suspending your disbelief with the little details of this new world, beginning with the most obvious, the speech patterns of this new generation of Angelinos. Gone are the days of the Valley Girls. Like, totally gag me with a spoon. And in its wake was born proper diction with mellow greetings to enhance your calm. A language that you might expect from a snooty receptionist at a posh yoga spa. They speak clearly, almost technically and pleasantly, never to offend. The little world of San Angeles is a well-curated environment for peace and safety. Their lawns are expansive and manicured. Their domiciles are uncluttered and functional. Their cars drive themselves, and the popular fashion is a stylish, comfortable kaftan. Even their top music station isn't so much music as family-friendly mid-20th century ad jingles. But not everyone agrees with the strict and sterile lifestyle. The poverty-stricken few who refuse to follow the rules live in the underground ruins of Los Angeles, where life is gritty, lawless, and the corner burger stall is making do by cleaning up the local rat population. Between the VR sex, all restaurants becoming Taco Bell, and a behavioral engineered knitting hobby, Demolition Man's world building is both playful and, though wildly creative, it's also somehow strangely plausible. There are already calm apps, calming YouTube channels, calming yoga retreats. Honestly, we're currently a society desperate for a little calm. And between mergers, buyouts, and bankruptcies, we're already seeing the reduction of capitalistic competition in all areas. It used to be that mom-and-pop shops fell to the department stores. Now the department stores are falling to big-box stores, and even the big-box stores are having difficulty competing between each other. While some areas of our lives have exploded with options, yes, I'm looking at you, all 5 million streaming services, other areas have turned into choiceless monopolies. I don't think anyone's going to win points by outlawing sex, but it's not so far-fetched to think that one day most restaurants could be a property of Taco Bell. My second favorite story element of Demolition Man is conflict. Okay. So we have to address the obvious conflict first. On the surface, Demolition Man explores the conflict between the law and the criminal aspects of society. How far do we go in pursuit of justice? What is acceptable punishment? Can we breed crime out of a society? Do we even have a right to breed crime out of a society? Does the intensity of the crime require an equal and opposite intensity in pursuit? These are timeless questions we ourselves ask in our everyday life. Humans have been trying to solve these problems for centuries, and we still don't have it figured out. But that's what good sci-fi does. It holds up a mirror and asks the questions we haven't yet solved. Demolition Man's crime lord and devoted cop may be comic versions of their roles, but taking into account that it is an exaggerated fiction of its time, Demolition Man explores the very sci-fi question of how would a nascent utopia handle unimaginable crime. And the unfortunate answer is, it doesn't answer that question. They defrost a convicted cop to do their job. Yeah, though I do appreciate that they asked the question, that's not the most compelling conflict in this movie. Personally, I find the more compelling conflict is the one that's unspoken. And that's the friction between personal choice and unfettered freedom versus public safety and control of the population. Now we're in the dystopian sweet spot. So, a little background. The filmmakers of Demolition Man made no effort to hide the fact that it was inspired by the 1932 acclaimed novel Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Huxley's book, written during the UK Depression, was both inspired by and written as a sardonic counterpoint to the optimistic pre-World War I utopian works of fiction from those like H.G. Wells. It was shaped by its time, when science and mass production was on the cusp of a boom, and by its intent, as a critique of the shifts in culture and identity. and though it confronted the timeless fear and dilemma of what will progress do to our society, Brave New World has a more pessimistically bitter answer to that question than that of Demolition Man. The heavy subject of personal choice versus control of the public in the early 1990s was almost fashionable. You have to remember that this time period is the birth of grunge. We were exiting the Gilded 80s with the Gulf War in 1990 and 1991. A whole new generation had experienced our first real military conflict since Vietnam, which brought on a new wave of introspective intellectualism and dissent. So the disillusionment of Huxley's Brave New World was relatable. But this new generation was also the first to be raised on modern technology. They embraced progress and saw it as a key to individualism instead of the death of identity as Huxley's Brave New World did. So, how does Huxley's negative utopia get translated into a palatable work of fiction for a modern society? You blow shit up and crack jokes. Though not a comedy per se, Demolition Man does not take itself seriously. It's a cult favorite primarily because of the kitschy and memorable world building. But that world building would be nothing if not for the conflict between resistance fighter Edgar Friendly and the utopian founder Dr. Cocteau. Friendly wants his gravy fries, his bacon, his cigars, his porn, and whatever else his whims desire. Cocteau wants an orderly society free of crime, disease, unhealthy behaviors, and unwanted hooligans. It is the ultimate battle, the one between id and superego, between wants and needs, between freedom and safety, between the individual and society. It's the basis of most human conflict, and one that humanity will probably be facing for as long as we exist. Which brings us to the last of my top 3 favorite story elements, which is the moral or theme. Like many dystopian works of fiction, Demolition Man has been recently referenced by all sides of the political spectrum. Whether you agree or disagree, it is undeniable that should you do a search for Demolition Man, you're likely to run across several commentaries comparing the movie to the trajectory of our current environment. This is nothing new. People have been using fiction, and science fiction in particular, as a warning or bellwether for impending social apocalypse since the beginning of storytelling. Every generation has a new set of doomsday parameters, but it usually clusters around fear and progress. When done well, it's one of the most endearing aspects of sci-fi. We can see the kernels of truth in what is being told. We identify with the persecuted, and suddenly the threat becomes relatable. People want to curse with gusto, and no one wants to trade in their tasty beef burger for a rat burger. They just don't. Demolition Man takes these contemporary fears and weaves it into a story with a world out of balance. The haves and the have-nots are living in 2 different realities and with 2 different philosophies. We see this imbalance straight from the beginning. The perpetually perky Lieutenant Lilina Huxley starts her beautiful Monday morning depressed, as much as she can be, that she has such a lack of stimulus in her little utopian world, while Edgar Friendly's opening lines are, "God, I love to hate this place," right after he sets off an auto graffiti machine spelling out "Life is hell" across a wall. These openings show the disparity between the city's 2 populations' everyday lives. The comparisons between these 2 societies is illustrated in the extremes. The San Angeles utopian harmony is so sterile that the population is practically puerile, and the disadvantaged aren't just relegated to the wrong side of the tracks. They are quite literally living underground where they are unseen and forgotten, considered subterranean hooligans of the past. No one in their right mind wants to live in either of these extreme societies, but it's these 2 extremes that illustrate the best part of utopian sci-fi movies, which is the exploration of what it means to have a perfect society. Or, more accurately, that we are constantly asking the question, is it possible to have a perfect society? The reality of a healthy society is that a utopia is compromise. My version of perfect and your version of perfect are probably vastly different, Now multiply that by billions of perfect preferences, and it's literally impossible to create a society that is perfect for everyone. It's about making tiny constant shifts to keep the best interests of as many as possible in balance. Though that may be reality, it doesn't make a very compelling story. What does make the story compelling is asking the question and discovering that the answer and the moral is balance. As John Spartan says, some of the people need to get a little dirty and some of them need to do some cleaning up, and we will figure it out in the middle. So, that's my personal take on the cult classic Demolition Man, the over-the-top explosive action film with a great sci-fi premise and just enough satire to make you chuckle. If you haven't yet seen it, then I hope that I've convinced you to pick up some Taco Bell, grab a ball of yarn, and give it a try. As for my stitching, I think that I'm going to frame this and hang it up in my bathroom. Boop the like button if you want to see that on my social media in the near future. If you enjoyed this little episode of geeky silliness, be sure to subscribe and catch the next episode of Stitching Sci-Fi. Also, don't forget to check out my free reading of Uncommon, Book 1 in the paranormal science fiction adventure series, The Chronicles of the Common, read right here, exclusively on YouTube. Until next time, folks and friendly fiends, thank you for watching, take care, and have a cozy common day.